My name is Marie Yaska. My maiden name was Atla, and I was born in the old village of Cutoff, which is above Huslia, on January 1st, 1938. Cutoff was just a little settlement, and we didn't stay there because there was no school or anything there, just a store. We had a house there, but we mostly stayed in camp. And I was adopted in the traditional way, and traditional meaning no paperwork, nothing, you know. It was kind of like Indian law, maybe. If whoever the midwife was, if she decides to ask for the baby, if she wants a baby, she's going to ask for the baby. And that's how I know several people that adopted the same way. But the lady that adopted me died when I was 2 years old, so I never knew her. First thing I remembered, I think, in our little rowboat, we were paddling around. And me and my sister that was also being raised with me, who was like 14 years older than me. And we had a brother between us. And up on top of this one tree was a seagull nest. And our stepmother said she wanted those eggs from that nest. And my sister kind of said more or less, "You're kidding, because that means she's going to have to climb way up there." And she went up there to get the eggs, and I remember the eggs was kind of like turquoise color, Arctic tern. Yeah. My sister had a baby. I don't remember how we got the baby or nothing. But all of a sudden, it's, you know, it's October, dark. And we heard owl land outside of the tent. But that owl said to her, as plain as I'm talking to you, "You're going to cry pretty soon." The baby died 3 days later. I was terrified of owls after that, because my sister told me it brings bad news. Another thing I heard talk was crow. So we all went to where they call First Hill. Well, it's springtime, you know, muskrat hunting. They do their muskrat hunting in the nighttime. And we set a fish net before we went hunting too. Seems like I just went to sleep pretty soon. Someone's talking really loud, and I woke up. And it sounded like up in the tree that we're sleeping under. I just heard it say, "Your grandchild is okay." And my dad, he said, you know, "Thank you. Like, thank you for the information. We're going to leave something for you to eat." That's what I heard him say. And then he told us to go check the net. We picked up the net, and we got 2 pikes. And then when we started to pack up, he said, "Leave that 1 pike there." People used to call the crow old man. Chick ass, they say. That means old man. That's it, that crow he's talking about. Raven. We only spoke our language that time, Tanaka. We weren't too exposed to English. My dad was a traditional healer. If somebody was sick, they came to him. You know, there was no doctors around. When I really start to remember, what I noticed was when we go to bed, he's praying, but I'm just a little kid. I don't know what prayer is. We never saw church, or I never heard about church. And what I hear him saying is he's praying for the well-being of everybody. And I asked my sister one night, because I sleep with her, in those days we just stayed in one-room cabin. You know, a kid always asks questions. Don't ask too much questions, she tell me. Finally, one day, just Dad and I were in the house. And I thought, I'm going to ask him, see what he'll say. I asked him, Dad, who you talk to when you go to bed or when you wake up? And he say, Sna, that means my child, there isn't just us here on this earth. He said, there's a higher power. That's the way he explained it to me. And that's who I pray to. He looks after us. And so that's who I pray to. Because I'm a traditional healer, I have to pray to keep myself straight so I don't do the wrong thing. Of course, I want to know what is the wrong thing. And he said there is a right and wrong. And that's all you need to know. If you start to do something wrong, you're going to know it. And he said, I don't want to do something wrong. That's why I have to pray. That's what we have to do, he said. And so they would bring him moose fat, just a little piece. And after he sing over this sick person, he used to walk in a circle around the person with just like a little blanket over his head. We don't see his face. And then after that, then he'd go like this with that moose fat. And he gave each one of us a little piece. That's kind of like communion. I never knew it then, but when I think of communion now, that kind of symbolizes the same thing. The chores we had to do, I remember, was we had to cook for dogs. And once we put cornmeal in there, we got to stir it, make sure it don't burn to the bottom. Well, we took turns doing that, my brother and I. But if we put blackfish in there, you know, blackfish it's frozen. You know, when they thaw out, they come back alive. Until it cooks, you know, it splash. It splash in that dog pot, and he don't want to hear it. He say, it's your turn to stir that dog pot. And, well, he's bigger than me, he's stronger than me. If I don't do it, he's going to hit me or something. So I stir that dog pot. And our other chore was to carry water from down the river. In those days, your cabin was lined with cardboard boxes to make it a little warmer, maybe. And we start to read what's on those cardboard boxes. Gee, it was really something. We know how to read. We had canned milk. The brand name was Pet. And my sister-in-law told us that milk in that can comes from cow. So we look at that whole can, see if it says that, you know, or at least say cow. We had pepper in a green can. That brand was Reliance. So we learned how to spell Reliance and Pet. They didn't want to build school in the old village because it was always flooding. And so I guess the state didn't want to build a school there. They told us we had to move to a better location, higher ground. So that's when we moved to Huslia. That was in 1949, 1950. Well, we're kind of excited. Well, gee, I was 15 years old, and people start building houses. It was going to be fancy, like city, be in rows. But then the banks started eroding, and they had to keep moving. I went to school for 2 years, up to 5th grade. And you know, when you're a teenager, you think you know everything. You think you know it all. Well, I got married when I was 17. And whoever knew how to read a little bit got whatever jobs there was in the village. And my brother Stephen came over and he said, we're having a council meeting and we want you to be our health aide. Wow. I said, how come? He said, well, you know how to read. He didn't. He said, you know how to read. Okay, so I went to the council meeting. And it was decided then that the public health nurse is going to come and she's going to teach somebody how to take care of people. The public health nurse showed us how to do vital signs and showed us how to give an injection on an orange. And that was it. And she told us where to give the injections. And the injections was for the penicillin. Oh boy, kids were terrified of us. And no wonder we come with those long needles. We're lucky we didn't paralyze somebody, you know, because we didn't have no training. And in that time, I delivered babies. I took care of cuts. I took care of strep or pneumonia, you know. After a while, you get to learn what your lungs should sound like. I also worked as a store clerk. And I did all this while my kids were little. One time I went down to 104 pounds. I never had time to eat. I was too busy being health aide and store clerk and raising kids, and the men always went away on jobs, you know. So you kind of had to do everything by yourself. One day my sister-in-law told me, "Your daughter is just wasting your dish soap every day." And I asked her, how, you know? "Well, she's blowing bubbles for all the kids." Well, that was no big deal. I tell her that's okay. I remember seeing real compound fracture. That's when the snow goes start coming. And nothing, we never saw nothing like that before that. But when four-wheelers and snow machines start coming, then people start getting broken bones. No medevacs either. You know, if you had to get to the hospital, it would have had to been a charter. And we paid our own way. And my son's case was the first spinal meningitis we had in Huslia. And I had a lot of more cases after that, including my own daughter. I took care of lots of people, but when it's your own, it's different. I panicked, but my sister happened to be visiting from Hughes. She ran to get my sister-in-law, and that's who helped her breathe. Today I'm thankful that happened because my daughter survived. I have 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl, and she's the youngest. I moved to Fairbanks, start working at the clinic as a nurse aide, and I retired. Well, I would like my kids and my grandkids to know that, to appreciate what they have, and to get as much education as they can. And over the years, I've started family tree, and it gets put aside, and then pretty soon I get a little more information. I write it there, I write it here, and in there it starts out with all Tanaka names, our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents. That's what I want to do, is to Xerox that for them, to each one of them, so they'll have it, they'll have that information. What I found out after I retired was I had to do something. So I volunteer here, I volunteer there, and then pretty soon they start to ask me to teach our language. And I found out that I really like that. That's something that I know, and I enjoy teaching it. And to my kids or my grandkids, I would encourage them to learn our language. Take care of yourself. That's to encourage them to always take the right path.